demonstrate on the outside. I can't forget the feeling with the inside. And yet, even as we make the prayer, we say words of belief and of affirmation in God. So if you would please repeat after me. Atah, Adonai, Elohim, Melech, Ha'olam, Dayan, Ha'emet, L'Esrei, Spirit of the universe, the righteous judge. And now, if you repeat the prayer on its own, I mean, it's easily clear because it's kind of good from the bottom up. The bottom, from the very bottom up. There you go. There you go.
It's hard to see because I got
Michael, are you good at this?
I know.
If anyone feels, is this on my phone? If anyone feels the need to, can you hear me all right? I can't. Can you hear? It's not. If anybody feels the celebrate the life of one who filled our world with her love, her goodness, her extraordinary spirit and outstanding example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, our people have turned to the Psalms in times of loss, in times of confusion and of doubt. Psalm 121, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and of earth. Esainai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. Esainai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. Esainai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old ones who wait to die. And if you must cry, cry for your brother or sister who walks in grief beside you. And when you need them, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to them. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms, embracing the friend who doesn't do it, so all that's left of me is love. Give away. My dear Les and Sharon, dear Randy, dear family, and friends who may be with us at this moment or accessing the video later on. The story is told of a king whose most treasured possession was a large, gleaming, sparkling, perfect diamond set into his signet ring. The king loved his ring because of the magnificent diamond that it held. Seeing how much he admired it, the king's beloved son would sit on his lap and play with the ring on his father's finger. One day, as his father was focused on other matters, the young prince managed to wiggle the ring off his father's finger and ran off delightedly to play with it. This situation did not end well, as the child soon returned in tears, as the ring had dropped on the floor, and the diamond was now cracked. The king was despondent, as even with his courtiers searching the kingdom for a jeweler who could fix the great diamond, he knew that a crack in a diamond cannot be repaired, that the diamond would never again be perfect and flawless. The courtiers, however, finally came upon a small jeweler's shop in the Jewish quarter of the king's capital city, where the jeweler assured them, "Of course, I can make it perfect." The courtiers were astonished and skeptical, as every other jeweler in the kingdom had said it was impossible. The jeweler assured them, "There is nothing, no problem, no matter how big or small, that cannot be fixed. Besides," he added, "what makes something perfect? It's all in how you look at it." And sure enough, at the end of the week, the jeweler appeared at the palace with a jewel box in his hands. The king opened the box and gasped. On the face of the great diamond, the jeweler had etched an exquisite, tiny rose, so perfectly rendered that it looked real. facet of the gem found another delicately unfolding petal. The jeweler had transformed the ugly, jagged crack into the flower's sturdy stem. The king could hardly believe his own eyes. The diamond was even better. It was perfect. As Les and Sharon and Randy and I spoke of Mabel, as we recounted her prodigious talents and abilities, her spunky, high-spirited, bold, and confident nature, as we affirmed that she never met a challenge she could resist, I kept thinking about this story. It was in many ways her story, except she made such miracles of restoration and perfection happen every day. As she would say, the bigger the challenge, the better I like it, as her clients brought her broken, chipped, and shattered china, glass, and ceramic figures, dishes, objets d'art, keepsakes, and mementos. Her clients brought her items they feared were hopelessly beyond repair, and she would go to work. When those same clients came back, they would hug and kiss her and cry with the joy of having a beloved keepsake returned to them miraculously in pristine condition. She loved the process, loved the outcome of every arrival at Mabel's China Repair Shop, a remarkably understated name and location, the third bedroom in her home, for the artistry that regularly happened there. The remarkable thing about Mabel, however, is that her artistry was not confined to her restoration work, and in fact she would not identify her repair process as art at all. That was Randy's domain, and she would call on him when his artist's eye and talent were needed to properly complete her efforts. Mabel may have outsourced the art department, but she had the soul and the sensibility of an artist in her work, in her music, in her cooking, in her interactions with others. She was an artist of life. She designed her life with bold strokes of vibrant, scintillating, brilliant color, with a myriad of textures, mediums, perspectives, and shadings. Hers was a multimedia existence, with a musical score that was stylistically eclectic, played largely allegro con brio, with a dynamic range that rarely went below an enthusiastic forte. She played her life's score with passion and intensity, with energy, vitality, and a propulsive drive that seemed to urge everyone around her to advance forward, to strive harder, to reach higher, and to fill every moment of our lives with worthy endeavor, adventure, and exploration, accomplishment, and perhaps most importantly, with fun. It's what she did. We always had the feeling that whatever Mabel was doing, it was exactly what she wanted to do, and she was having a grand time doing it. She relished her business and the challenges it constantly brought her. She adored her violin, and one orchestra to play in just wasn't enough, as she graced the Suburban Symphony, the Youthman Symphony Orchestra, and for a change of pace, the Workman's Circle Klezmer Orchestra. In addition, she was the heart and soul of Fairmont Temple's annually convened Klezmer. Mabel would enlist the participation of other musicians, friends of hers, to help fill the various sections of our ensemble and keep us going year after year. She enjoyed our Jewish music making and the raucous celebration of Purim we accompanied, so she was delighted to share it with others and strengthen our work in the process. When her children were in grade school, she became an enthusiastic member of the Belvoir Mother Singers, an activity she maintained until they became truly the Belvoir grandmother and then great-grandmother singers. She loved to cook, and she happily and proudly shared her culinary creations, but never her kitchen. There were some boundaries that could not be crossed, and she was adamant about them. When asked by an invited guest what they could bring, her classic response was, a hanging houseplant. She not only did all of the cooking, no one else was allowed to help set the table, clean up afterwards, or do anything else in between. This was her domain, and strong-minded and strong-willed as
of her fiercely private conduct of her kitchen is that no one knows what exactly went into her delicious soups that everyone anticipated and greatly enjoyed. Her kitchen was also one constant source of her uncanny and unfailing ability to make each of her loved ones feel special, cherished, noticed, and cared for. She never served the same meal to everyone at her table, as she anticipated individual favorites, tastes, needs, and preferences, as Stacy shared. I remember breakfasts at her house. The toast and eggs were well done with lots of butter and extra salty, just as I liked them. We would sit and talk about school, friends, life, and the future. I remember the many times my grandma invited us for dinner and cooked separate plates for the kids with eggs or chicken nuggets, because she knew that they wouldn't want to eat what the adults were eating. She would put a silver cover on top of each of their plates so they felt special. Her soup was incredible, though we never knew what exactly went into it. She always made my kids feel so special and loved, asking about their lives and about them. She adhered to special diets and never failed to send home soup for Matthew and the homemade applesauce he loved. Early on in Les and Sharon's marriage, Mabel happened to make macaroni and cheese that was so good, Sharon's sisters still remember it and invariably asked Mabel to fix it again. If I'm not mistaken, they are here with us this afternoon in special tribute to Mabel's culinary prowess. She may have been small, but she was mighty. She was a 5-foot dynamo who literally and figuratively packed a powerful punch. We can imagine the awe, impact, and excitement with which Mabel arrived into this world in the arms of her parents, Jenny and Samuel Spencer, 10 years after their third child, Ike, was born, who was the youngest of 3 brothers, born in fairly quick succession between 1910 and 13, Leo, Joe, and Ike. The entire family must have been shocked and elated by the sheer kinetic force, like a meteor or a shooting star, with which this baby girl entered the world at Mount Sinai Hospital, where Sharon and Stacy would also arrive in future generations. On October 27, 1923. Her inexhaustible energy and independent spirit were evident early on, as her brothers taught her to box and to play baseball, a skill she was still using at the age of 50 when she played shortstop for a softball team. She was a self-described tomboy, as she spent hours pursuing physical activities, including ice skating. In fact, husband Mike used to say that he fell in love with her because she threw like a maniac. Together, they also bowled, played pool, and golf, which Mike taught her. Mabel was also born with artistry in her DNA, as her father, a furrier by trade, produced Yiddish plays during the slow fur season at the Duchess and Globe Theaters, which he owned at East 55th and Woodland and Scoville Avenues. He hired New York cast actors from 2nd Avenue and produced musicals and dramas here with local Jewish actors playing the small parts. Many well-known Jewish actors performed for him, such as Boris Tomaszewski, Maurice Schwartz, Molly Picone, Anasha Skolnick, Luther Adler, Jacob Adler, and Paul Mooney, who was only 12 years old when he came with his parents, who were comedians. As Mabel herself related to the Cleveland Jewish News, after my father sold the 2 theaters, he became a partner in the Manhattan Theater at East 105th and Superior. He continued to bring New York actors here. When I was 10 years old, my father brought me to watch Aaron Lebedoff, whose magnificent baritone rocked the theater boards as he danced and sang Yiddish songs, ending with Romania, Romania. My father sat me right behind the prompter's hood, where I could see the pit orchestra and the conductor, Morris Kaplan, who played the violin while still keeping the beat with his head. I was fascinated with the balance of instruments and sound that came from the pit of only 7 musicians. As a result, I started taking violin lessons at age 11 with Morris Kaplan as my teacher. Mabel played violin in both the Patrick Henry and Glenville High School orchestras. She was outgoing, upbeat, warm, curious, friendly, and generous. She was social, popular, and had lots of friends. In later years, whenever there was a class reunion, Mabel was the organizer. Her particular, very smart, and a believer in education for her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She was very proud of Stacy's profession as a teacher and thought education was the key to any kind of advancement. Both Les and Randy speak of her daily support, encouragement, and aspirations for her. When Mabel and Mike returned to Cleveland after Mike's military service at Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, they lived upstairs in a two-family house owned by Jenny. Both Les and Randy were born there and attended grade school in the Glenville neighborhood, where Mabel had grown up, before moving to Western Road and then Overlook, and finally to a house in University Heights. Mabel was a strong and loving presence in her children's lives. She laid out their clothes and cooked breakfast every morning and was there every afternoon when they came home. Most of all, she shared her passions with them: her love of music, her curiosity, her thirst for learning, reading, exploring new ideas and initiatives. As far as Mabel was concerned, no meal was complete or completely satisfying without a robust exchange of opinions about most any subject, but politics was a favorite topic. Even Sharon recalls the intensity of these exchanges, these debates, these arguments, as she could not fathom how all of the participants could engage in such heated, even vitriolic disputes, and then leave the table as if nothing at all had happened. For Mabel, there was nothing wrong with an open and honest exchange of convictions. She herself was a woman of conviction, as she would go the extra mile for anyone who needed her, especially her loved ones. And she never tired of encouraging them to develop their talents and abilities, to reach ever higher levels of expertise and accomplishment, to develop their innate talents and abilities, and to be the very best that they could be. What she hoped for her children only intensified with her grandchildren. Mabel was delighted when Sharon came into the family, who interestingly was the only one less dated of her grandmother Jenny. Mabel, her love for Sharon did not preclude their butting heads from time to time, as two strong personalities invariably collided. Nevertheless, she was joyous with their marriage and the arrival of both Stacy and Matthew. As Stacy reflected, I remember our long talks when we did our girls' dinners. We both ate very slowly and truly enjoyed our time together. She was present for every important moment and occasion in Matthew's life. Mabel and Mike loved to witness their grandchildren's activities, to be a part of their celebration, to attend important events in their lives. They loved to watch their growth and maturity, to rejoice in their accomplishments, to be with them whenever possible, to hear their voices on the phone. It was a thrill for them when Stacy found her Craig, and just days ago, as Mabel knew her end was approaching, she asked Les, "Make sure my babies don't forget me." She was hoping to be present for Dylan's bar mitzvah, but it was postponed because of the pandemic. She would have happily anticipated Kaylee's bar mitzvah as well, as she could never get enough of her great grandchildren. One could say, and accurately, that they made beautiful music together. They both attended Glenville High School, where as a 10th grader she used to tell this 12th grader, "You're going up the down staircase." That seems not to have made much of an impression on him, as 2 years later, when he returned to Glenville to hear a choral concert of the choir, in which he had sung solo tenor, he asked his date, "Who was the girl in the front row, fourth from the right?" Mabel Fenster came the response. At intermission, he found that girl at the water fountain and asked if he could call her. "What's your name?" was Mabel's reply. They went out 5 times before Mike was drafted, and Mabel became an Army wife when he came home on furlough, and they married. For an all too brief 68 years, they shared a wonderful life. Mike was a very supportive husband. He always encouraged Mabel to pursue her interests and never pressured her to hurry home or to forgo a rehearsal or activity. He was always happy to see her and available to her. They shared a myriad of interests and activities, a love of travel, a love of family and faith, but not of the same Yiddish pronunciation. In the aftermath of his passing 10 years ago, Mabel would say she was alone, but not lonely. She was strong, tough even when she needed to be, resilient, versatile, indomitable. She had so much to do, your friends with whom to share common interests and activities, and 3 generations of her family she loved and adored. Her life's creation was full, it was whole, it lacked for nothing. She was a true artist of life, whose now completed masterpiece will endure as it impacts and inspires our lives' creations with her courage, her joy, her soaring strength and spirit. Zichrona Livracha. May the memory of this accomplished artist be always for blessing. And we say, O God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort, and the sorrow laden for consolation. God, we see life as the windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They leave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. Let us rise.
המצאי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה אם קדושים וטהורים כזרעיה מזהירים נשמת מלכה בת שמואל וחנה שלחה sheltering presence to Mabel Snider, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting night. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We join together in the Kaddish praise. As we say, Yitkadal v'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'omad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich lachutei, V'chayechon of Yomechon of Chayei v'chomei Yisrael, V'galav Yizman Karev v'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah v'barach v'olam righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. It is part of the tradition of our people to actually help to bury our departed with our very own hands, if we